Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we've got a video on some of the sailor art around the battleship. We're going to more focus on some of the murals, but the basics are Battleship New Jersey has somewhere around 40 pieces of sailor art around the ship. It might be more than any other museum ship, probably more than any other museum battleship. While there's definitely graffiti and even artwork that was done during earlier commissions, almost everything on the battleship is from the 1980s. Part of that is because the 60s era stuff, the 50s era stuff, that would have been obliterated and painted over by the new commission. And part of that is because technically you weren't supposed to paint sailor art all over the ship prior to the 1980s. Most of the sailor art on Battleship New Jersey is from the last couple of years of her career. We're pretty confident of this because many of the interior fittings of the ship, like the backs of these beds where we are right now, would have originally been painted a beige color for most of the 80s. And then right at the end of the ship's career, they go through and they repaint the entire inside of the ship with this shade, which is known as extra white. It's whiter and more boring than normal white. And then, of course, all the artwork is over top of this, so we know that it antedates that period. It must have been very late in the ship's career because when Wisconsin is being reactivated from 86 to 88, she is painted in that like beige and brown color on the interior, which she still retains. Because she was painted so recently compared to her decommissioning, she never got completely repainted like New Jersey, which would have been recommissioned between 81 and 82, and then got some major work done in like the 87, 88 time period, right before she's decommissioned. So, essentially, the sailor art is because the inside of the ship is so boring. So it's just like blank white paint. You've got a bunch of creative young guys on board who are in charge of painting the ship and keeping it maintained. And so the Navy puts into place a procedure where if you want to personalize your workspace or your berthing space, as this compartment is, then you can submit a design proposal to your division officer, and then they will likely approve it, and then you can paint it full scale on the ship. Painting murals is one of the things that the ship's company did in their free time, but this was before handheld electronic devices that made it easy to play video games. I prefer to play video games, which is why in my free time I've been playing Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus on my mobile device. Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus is an exciting turn-based tactical strategy game set in the eternal conflict of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. In Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus, you bring some of the universe's most powerful warriors to lightning-fast tactical skirmishes where you are in full control and only superior tactics can deliver victory. Assemble and lead more than 80 legendary Warhammer 40,000 champions from 18 playable factions. My favorite is Black Legion, because their special ability, Let the Galaxy Burn, has a possibility of dealing extra damage, much like secondary explosions from a battleship's guns going off. New players can use the code HelloFeb to get 2,000 gold and 50 Blackstones. I am not at all an art curator, art historian, or anything like that, but even I can read a heck of a lot into a mural like this one. So first of all, we are in the 2nd Division berthing space, which is fairly far forward here on the second deck of Battleship New Jersey. So it says 2nd Division, second to none. 2nd Division are the deck division guys who also man turret 2. So your enlisted guys from that division, not counting the chiefs, would have all been berthing in this large communal berthing space. The deck division guys are responsible for, in addition to operating the guns, they also do a lot of the maintenance around the ship. They do line handling when the ship is coming into and out of port, but they also do a lot of the painting, the swabbing or mopping, cleaning, things like that. Part of the reason why Battleship New Jersey looks so good in pictures from when she's in service is because of the deck division guys. And I sure wish we had a crew of them on board now that we're a museum. That explains why the deck ape here has his mop and mop bucket. Deck ape is a term primarily used by other departments to describe the deck division guys. Because they're the weapons guys, the gunnery guys, they're passing ammunition, they tend to be some of your bigger and stronger guys, especially compared to like the electronics guys. So they're big and strong like an ape, deck ape. And this is one of those examples of reclaiming what was probably intended originally by other departments to be a pejorative term or a joke, teasing, but they have claimed it for themselves. And notice how buff this deck ape is. He's wearing, of course, the traditional sailor's dungarees, including Dixie cup hat. The only non-normal piece of uniform here is that he's wearing the roller skates. And that's another Navy thing. Skating is what sailors do when they're trying to avoid work. So it might be that they're doing some really simple task and taking a really long time at it to avoid work, or it might be that they're hiding so they can take a nap instead of being caught working. If you're just sitting here doing nothing, when Chief comes by, he's probably going to give you some sort of cleaning assignment to do. So skating is your best way to avoid having that happen. Honestly, the sailor painting this mural probably did it as a way to get out of work. If he's here with a couple of paint buckets doing something, the Chief probably isn't going to pull him away from this to go do some other job. You notice not only is he wearing the roller skates as a reference to skating, Skate is also written on his name tag, so this particular deck ape's name is Skate. The final interesting thing about this mural here is the sunglasses he's wearing are very 1980s, which further helps us date this, this picture. If he had been wearing something like aviators, that wouldn't really help much, but I don't even know what you call those sort of billboard sunglasses, but they sure look 1980s to me, don't they? I don't know if it's because the deck division guys had access to all of the paint, or if this division just had some creative guys in it. But here's another mural, and it looks like it was painted by someone different. This one actually has a name and date on it, done by, I think that's a C. Dos Santos, 8990. But even without this date being written on it, we could still very easily date this mural. Check out this right here at the bottom. Wetsu, or we eat this stuff up, has certainly been an expression that's been around for longer than the late 80s. However, it was the motto of Captain, later Admiral Ron Tucker, who was the ship's final commanding officer, who was on board from 89 to 91. So, he made that the ship's slogan, and the crew really adopted it, and we see it on a number of pieces of surviving artwork around the ship. So having it right here, no surprise at all, but very much helps us date this photograph. That and the date here, and the big date right here. Pacific Fleet deployment 8990 was the ship's last big deployment. This was the one where she goes, does a pack axe, and then goes into the Indian Ocean, and then the Persian Gulf at the end of the Iran-Iraq tanker war, before coming back and starting decommissioning procedures. This mural also has some symbolism to it. Notice the crossed anchors, which are the logo of the bosun's mate. That's the emblem that they get. Two of the things that I find striking here. One, you never see any of these drawn of like a skinny guy or a schlubby guy. They're all big, strong guys. And two, notice that he's smoking. Very common on board the ship throughout her entire career. Another interesting thing about the sailor art on board the ship, it is painted on the steel that the furnishings, or sometimes the external steel of the ship, it's painted on what the ship is made out of, the steel. The steel, doesn't hold paint forever. We're going around about once every 10 years repainting the ship. And part of the issue is, as the space gets hot or cold, then the steel will expand and contract, and the paint doesn't expand and contract at the same rate as the steel. So it will often pop off, which means that artwork on the ship does not last forever. Nowadays, the climate control on board is pretty good, particularly in the parts of the ship that are on the tour route. You don't see more than about a 10-degree fluctuation between summer and winter, which is well within what your standard system of coatings can handle. However, the Battleship went through more than a decade in mothballs, and then a period of time when the museum had the ship before the climate control systems had been, one, fixed at all, or two, gotten to a ideal working level. If this was an art museum, we would be able to better climate control our artwork. Being a battleship, that isn't really possible, and even art museums often have to bring in conservators to work on their art. So for us, we happen to have a volunteer who's a very prominent maritime artist, Dave Boone, and you can see his signature down here from where he touched up this piece of art back in 2009. And you can see that even though it's been about 15 years since then, it has held up tremendously well now that we've got the climate control tuned up properly. You can see a small example of the touch-up here where the original artist's signature is, where the blues are slightly different colors. Dave has fixed probably most of the 40 pieces of artwork at this point, and some of the artwork he's fixed more than once, such as the things in the gun turrets where there is no climate control. Those deteriorate relatively rapidly and have to be repaired by him fairly frequently. Now, let's go look at the most recent piece of artwork that Dave repaired just about a week ago. So this is the most recent piece of artwork that Dave worked on restoring. Now you can see that when probably the museum painted this door when we were getting the ship ready to be open to the public, we taped over a lot of these. You can still see some of the tape here on the Surface Warfare logo, and you can see the sharp lines around some of these pieces of artwork. This central logo was not taped over and had been completely painted over, but it wasn't a good coat of paint and it had been peeling off. So one of the maintenance guys who was working in here had been peeling the paint off and had partially exposed this piece of artwork. So Dave came in and fixed this. Next up, I'm going to have him put the R2-D2 dome back on the phalanx here. But this compartment's completely gutted. We don't really have any evidence of what it was originally, so the artwork on the door and the sign really makes it clear what this space was for. These have been just 3 out of, like I said earlier, about 40 examples of sailor art still around the ship. There are additional pieces of sailor art that we know were on the ship, such as a Roadrunner on main engine number 4 that got painted over during later commissionings. Some of this is more like calligraphy, like the name stenciled on some of the ship service turbo generators. Some of them are more graffiti, just drawn with a Sharpie in places. But many of them are murals or artwork like these. If you're interested in this sort of topic, we'll do other videos about them in the future. There are a couple other pieces down on third deck that we haven't quite gotten to, and most of the 5-inch gun mounts have some pieces as well, although many of them are of copywritten properties. Like there's one of Snoopy, there's one of Garfield, both of which could not be reproduced because of those properties being copywritten. But some of the artwork we do reproduce on items in our ship's store, such as the Grim Reaper that shows up in Turret 1 that we have on some of our t-shirts. There's a link to that in the description down below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. In particular, we'd like to thank Warhammer 40,000 Tacitus for supporting today's video. Remember, if you start playing the game today and use the code HELLOFEB, you get 2,000 gold and 50 Blackstones. You can support Battleship New Jersey by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find out about the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.